Or do you? Okay, you won't be able to see any of you in this recording. You'll only see me. So you'll hear and see me. And even if you pop on, we'll hear you, but we won't see you. That's another thing to mention, you know, a lot of women who start this work, sometimes they start off going, oh, you know, I feel a bit, you know, uncertain about this. I don't want it to be too public, because we feel a bit ashamed as women that we, you know, there's a kind of a sense that with relationships, you're just supposed to know how they work and be good at them. It's the biggest load of bollocks that I've ever seen, because the only people we learn from are our parents and, you know, TV, and how many of those are good examples? So we need to open that up, take away the shame, be confident, and really claim that we're learning how to be great in relationship. And there's a lot of women who've done this kind of work who are really, truly great at relationship now, and now they're really proud of it. And there's some women on that call tonight I can see who are here. We might even get some of them to have a chat too and share. So what we're going to learn tonight is for all women, really. It genuinely is, because relationship skills and the capacity to be really great at relationships, it's great for you if you're single, because if you're single, then you will be having trouble. You know, you'll be having trouble getting a date to start with. I mean, how hard is it to actually get a decent date? I mean, I know some of you women are amazing women, and you're smart, you're intelligent, you're pretty, you're fun, all those things, but still just getting a date can be so incredibly frustrating. And yes, we know you could ask them out on a date, but how far does that ever go? So there's a real kind of missing link there. So we're going to go over a lot of information tonight that's really helpful for the single women. It's also really great for women who are in a relationship, because, I mean, if you're in a relationship, I would bet money on it that you want it to be better. I mean, relationships are so challenging. It doesn't even matter if you know that your partner is incredible and amazing and you love him and you think he's wonderful. There's going to be some areas where it's just not connecting, and you don't have the skills to make it change, no matter how hard you try. Or maybe you're in a relationship with a man and you don't know if he's fantastic, but you think maybe there's potential for him to be, and you want to put in absolutely everything that you can before you can feel like you're able to walk away confidently and say, I tried my best. And there is this work that we're going to go over tonight is for all of these situations. And, you know, the thing is that once you've learnt this kind of these skills and this wisdom for relationship, when you're single and it starts to work and you find yourself in a fantastic relationship, you still need to keep practicing. I did a little video today on my social media, because I was looking at the name of the masterclass tonight and thinking, I wonder if people think that my relationship's perfect all the time. And it's not. It's just not. We fight, we argue, but we fight so well. And we're always more deeply connected after each argument that we have, because of the work that I do, because of the work that I've implemented into my life and that I keep on coming back to. There's challenging times in our relationship and I always come back to the codes, and it always has us coming closer again and again. And some of the other women who are here tonight who've done the full Love Codes training program will tell you the same thing. Now, we do have another Love Codes program starting soon. Samantha and I were just talking about that. She was the lucky winner. And so heaps of women are contacting me and asking me about it and wanting to understand more about it. So I'm going to go through all of the codes with you tonight, and I'm going to unpack them as much as I can in this time. And I'm going to give you some of the best and most useful tools from the program that you can start to implement tonight. So stick with me. I'm going to be doing a bunch of talking. Now, those of you who've done the Love Codes training with me will know that the codes themselves are a map that I have spent a lot of time, 25 years, in fact, of my life, designing and working out exactly how women attract and maintain really great relationships. And what I've created is a map for women like yourself that you can follow. So it's not just a bit of information here, there, and everywhere. One moves naturally onto the next one, and it's set out before you so that you can follow the guidance really clearly. And it's set up so that once you embody one of the codes, then you're ready, the fertile ground is set to then naturally move on to and embody the next, which is the feminine way. And we'll talk about this a lot as we go through the process tonight, as opposed to the masculine way. Now, as I said, I've spent 25 years as a transpersonal counsellor, neuro-linguistic programmer, a relationship therapist in all of that time. And I've spent most of that time researching and developing this work that I deliver to lots of women around the world and that I'll be delivering to you tonight. And this is the main kind of background of the work that I do, but really what really qualifies me is my own story of heartache, because I can relate to every single woman here. I promise you, whatever your story is, I reckon mine, I've been there. I came from a background of a family of abuse and very poor relationship models. I did find the love of my life and get married, and then I ended up in a really awful, devastating divorce. There was a lot of infidelity and a lot of emotional abuse. I am a confident, strong woman, and I found myself in this abusive situation where I didn't want to leave him. You know, I felt I had lost all my sense of self-worth, and I was just devastated, believing that no one would ever love me, and really feeling like maybe I'd lost my opportunity for that dream, that I was getting too old and it was slipping away from me. I know some of you can relate to that. And it is really scary and it is really devastating. And it wasn't until after my divorce that I took stock, and I was there devastated and depressed, and eventually starting to find my way through that swamp, but I wasn't getting any dates, you know. And then eventually, you know, I'd get kind of some stragglers here and there, but man, they were not someone that I was excited to be going on a date with. It just wasn't working for me. And I really kind of had a wake-up call and realized that it's not just me that's having this experience, it's so many women. And if I can't work it out with all of the experience that I have and all of the training that I have, then we're all screwed. So I really did dedicate my life to working it out. And what I found was bloody mind-blowing. And I applied it to myself and got incredible results. You know, I joke with my women sometimes and say how, like, literally all of a sudden I was surrounded by choice, and it was profound. And I thought maybe it was a flick, so I tried it with some friends, and then I tried it with clients, and I started to really find the maps, and that is exactly what started this process. I then discovered that, you know, I was having a great time dating, and dates were working for me, and men were connecting with me, good quality men, but it wasn't translating into a long-term relationship. So I kept on working out. I kept on working with women from cultures that do have really great success with men, and I've discovered what those commonalities are, and again practiced it with myself. And long story short, I did meet my eventual husband, who's my husband now, the man of my dreams, who my friends call Mr. Not Normal, because he genuinely is absolutely amazing. Yes, he annoys me sometimes, but we were able to be with that in a really beautiful way. So it's worked for me, and it's worked then for friends and clients, and I've seen it work time and time again, which is why I started to teach it in this kind of program. And I keep getting these amazing results. So I really want to share some of those with you today. Some of the, maybe like the top 5 processes. We'll see how many we can get through. Now, I talk about the 5 codes, and the first code that we'll go through tonight really sets that sort of fertile ground for making some change. Because what happens with relationships, what I've discovered in all of my years working as a professional in this industry, is that the background or the psychological ground that we have for relationships comes from where we have from our childhood and the patterns that we've taken on. So we need to kind of massage that ground and create a little bit of fertility so that we can plant something that's a little more nurturing and a little more, or a lot more beneficial and healthy. And the second code is where we remove the old patterns and remove those negative beliefs around relationships, especially the unconscious ones. It's kind of like weeding, you know, weeding them out. And then the third code is where we heal past traumas, and we heal your past within relationships. Because if you are over the age of 18, you will have had experiences in relationships that has caused you trauma, that has caused you pain and wounding. It's real. And for some of us, it's very, very serious too. You know, I myself have sustained quite significant abuse. And so that's something that I take very seriously, and I am qualified to deal with, because I have worked a lot with people through trauma and through psychological issues and abuse. And this is an important part of the program. If you want to change your experience in relationships, it's one thing to learn a couple of fun skills, but there's trauma that needs to be to be dealt with. And so that's what that third code's about. And then the last two codes is all about creating new pathways. That's the fun stuff. That's when we get to actually create new patterns and habits. And that's where the neuro-linguistic programming comes into it. And again, in some programs, you know, we might look at what the issues are. But in this program, we really need to look at healing the past trauma and then creating the new processes. And that's what we're going to do. Now, I want to share my screen with you. And you'll have to excuse me, I'm a little bit of a Luddite when it comes to technology. There we go. I want to talk to you now about the first code. This is, as I said, it's the important code because it sets the foundation for the rest of the process. And this is what we call the quantum paradigm of relationship. And the reason that this is really, really important is because it's obvious, right? The traditional model of relationship, the one that we're all a part of, is broken. It literally doesn't work. If you look around yourself at all the relationships you know, I guarantee that 95% at most, I mean, at least, are crappy, because the model of relationship that we've been operating on is completely broken, and we need to create a dramatic mind shift about what it means to be in a relationship. That's what Code 1's all about, and it's extremely important. If we think about the old model of relationship, which is the one, mind you, that most people, that all people really here tonight are still sustaining, is all about the business of relationship. So if you think, what's the business of relationship? The business of relationship is about getting things done. It's about ticking the boxes. It's about making sure he has a good job and making sure that you've got the same ideas for what you want to do in life, and that you get along with the family, and that you can build a house and build a home, and you can have the right cars, and what school are the kids going to go to, and what's the division of chores. And these things, while they're important for living a life together, that has become the focus. That's become the model of relationship, and that everything that we focus on. It's not working. It's not giving women what they truly want. Now, the new model, this quantum model of relationship that I'm introducing you to tonight, is all about connecting. So I want you to think about that just for a second. What is the one thing that you really, really want to have with a man, that you've either stumbled upon once before and desperately want to reclaim that, or that you just haven't been able to find yet? And I will hazard a guess that it is about that deep, true soul connection where you are truly met by that man. Because I can tell you, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of women, and in the end, it always comes down to that. And that's really telling. That's telling us that the new model of relationship really is about connection, and it is time for us to bring our focus to that. It's time for us to cultivate that and create that, and we can, and that's what this is all about. But most people take the idea of being in a relationship as a given, as though it's your birthright to be in a relationship. It's kind of just what happens, right? Like, you're in school and you think, well, I'm going to go to school and I'll have a boyfriend, and then maybe I'll go to uni, and then I'll meet someone, and while I'm building my career, we'll get married, we'll have kids, and then da-di-da, and it's a done deal. But guess what? It's not your birthright to be in a relationship. It's not a done deal. Being in a relationship is actually an honor and a privilege, particularly when we're looking at this new model of relationship. To be in a connection with someone, or in a relationship with someone where you are deeply connecting on a soul level, that's an honor, and it's an absolute privilege. And when we approach something understanding that it is really a privilege, then we will bring to it everything that we have, and we will be willing to learn and put in the effort that's necessary to make it work and to make it really, really wonderful. And I know that all of you women here tonight have put in everything you can to get the right kind of guy, or to make your relationship really meaningful. But it's fallen short, and it's fallen short because if it hadn't fallen short, you wouldn't be here tonight. And it's fallen short. It's not your fault. It's not because you haven't tried. It's because no one has shown you. No one has given you the tools how to do it. And that's what we're doing tonight. That's what you're here for. So again, I want to congratulate you for doing that, for having the courage. Now, I want to speak about how the old paradigm of relationship is outdated. There's two main ways in which the old paradigm is outdated. And the one that we spoke about already is that the purpose of relationship in the past has been all about control. It's been all about the business of relationship. It's about making sure that everything runs smoothly. And the purpose of relationship in this new quantum paradigm of relationship is for connection. So our attention comes to that place. What I want to talk to you about tonight and really unpack is the second aspect of the old paradigm that really causes an issue, and that's what our roles are in relationship. I want you to think about it for a second, okay? In our modern times, what is the role of a man and what is the role of a woman? Now, whenever I ask women this question, they will always say the same thing, and that is that the role for a man in relationship is basically to be the protector and the provider. And I would agree. And that's what his role always has been, even in the past. But there is another role for a man in relationship. When we're looking at the quantum paradigm, I'm going to share with you in a moment what that is. And it's something that I've discovered to be true time and time again in many cultures. And it's something that we're not told about, and it's extremely important. But let's just look at women for a moment first. What's a woman's role in relationship? In the past, it was to be, the nurturer and the homemaker. And if I ask women these days, what's the role now? Now, I'm not going to ask you to come off mute, but just mouth it or just say it to yourself. What's a woman's role these days in a relationship? Everything. This is a woman's role in relationship these days, is to be everything. Is it any wonder we're failing at relationships? Is it that pressure is literally impossible? We can't be everything. So not only do we have the wrong answer for what it's supposed to be that's been imposed on us, but no one's shown us, no one's told you yet what the real purpose for a woman is in a heterosexual relationship between a man and a woman, an intimate relationship. And again, this is something that I've discovered through my 25 years of research, and I've seen this also to be true time and time again in multiple cultures. And I'm going to share with you right now what that is. The purpose or the role for a man in a relationship, in this quantum paradigm, his real role is to be a hero. Now, before you all kind of gag at that, give me a moment. I'm going to unpack what that means. And it doesn't mean that he has a big fat ego. There's something much deeper, much more profound to this role for a man in modern and quantum paradigm of a relationship. And let's just touch momentarily for what the woman's role is. And the woman's role in a relationship, her higher purpose is to be a guide. And I know when you hear that it sits so right within your center. Women's role within a relationship is to be the guide, to be the emotional and spiritual guide of the relationship, because women, when you're able to throw out the trash, throw out all the crap that's been you've been inundated with, all of the programming, all of the pressure, all of the cultural programming that has masculinized you, women have an innate and direct connection to something greater than themselves through their feelings. And it is when a woman is able to be truly valued within this feminine value that she connects to being the guide in the relationship. It's profound and it's beautiful and it's true. And I know I can see some of you just feeling that in your heart right now. And I want to just give the men a little shot as well, because those of you who've done my work before will understand when I talk about the hero for men. But for some of you, and it was for me too, when I started to really see this, I kind of went, oh shit, this makes sense now. The thing is that men can come across as needing to be a bit of a hero in an egotistical way, but it's not the case. You see, men, psychologically, we now know that a female's psyche and a male's psyche develops very differently. If you look at the developmental stages through childhood and teenagehood especially, and into early adulthood, a male's brain develops the part of the brain that develops more quickly. Let me just say the women's part of the brain that develops more quickly is the relational aspect. There you go. And the male's part is the part that seeks out danger and challenge. So what has now been discovered is that the male psyche requires challenge to overcome in order for him to grow as a man. What this means is that men genuinely need to go out and slay dragons and monsters in order to grow and fulfill his purpose as a man. This is really big stuff. I want you to think about what that means. All the times when men say, I can't win with you, or when you don't let him help you, or when he feels like he's got no place in your life, he's not able to fulfill his deeper purpose. Now, men these days mostly aren't aware of this, but I promise you this. When a man is able to be a hero for you, when you let him be a hero, when you know how to let him be a hero, he cannot help but be around you, and he cannot help but want to step up and keep doing more of that. And when you're able to really embody the higher purpose for a woman in relationship to be the guide, wow, it is just profound. I was speaking to one of my old participants, one of the old, she's not old, one of the graduates from the Love Codes program who did the full program not too long ago. And she was saying today how her partner that she's with now just, when she embodies that, he's putty in her hands, and when she slips out of it, they start to bash heads. And I see it happen time and time again. So I want you to really take this in. A man's true and higher purpose in relationship is to be the hero, and a woman's true and higher purpose in a relationship is to be the guide. And I want to let's move on to the next code, because this is a really big part of the process and I just want to give you so much. So excuse me if I'm speaking quickly, but I want to give it all to you. So attractive persuasion. Look, the issue for women is that you want to go out into the world, right? You want to go out into the world and make shit happen. You want to go out into the world and create and produce and move mountains, and that's so fun and it's so good to do that. And you want to be able to come home, though, to a man who can hold you and who can create that space for you to let go and sink in and just feel safe and nurtured and loved. And you just want to be able to go home to a man who's going to really step up. You want to go on the date. You want to be called by a man who's going to step up so you can let go and really enjoy that space. And the problem, though, is that they don't do it. You go out and make shit happen, and then the men just aren't really stepping up. And I know that so many of you can relate to this, right? I know I've been there. All the women that I work with relate to this. And, men don't step up in lots of different ways. If you're single, it might be that he doesn't call you. He doesn't actually go past the flirting in the app stage and ask you on the date. But it's so freaking frustrating, because you know that he's into you and you know that he'd like to, but you also know that if you make the first move, it just fizzles out and it hardly ever goes anywhere. And you don't want to do that anyway. You want to be pursued, right? So they just don't step up. Or you're dating and they don't step up. They don't take it to the next level of relationship. It's frustrating, especially when you know that they would like to, or that you're a wonderful match. And you know that because underneath you are the guide, so you can see these things. But blurting it outright is not the way to go with men, because then they don't get to be the hero. We'll unpack this a little bit more as we go on. Men don't step up for you if you're in a relationship and you go out and you're making shit happen, you come home and they're not taking charge. They're not letting you let go. They're not being the ones to make the decisions and make sure that things are happening and taking care of you and taking care of business and listening to you and making you feel like they're queen. So women want to go out and make things happen. You want to do that, but you want to come home to a man who's going to hold you and step up. You want to be pursued by a strong and masculine man. You want a strong and masculine man to ask you out. You want him to take it to the next level. You want him to be able to meet you in your power, in your relationship, see you there, meet you there, and know that he's going to be strong enough to hold you in everything that you are, because you're an empowered, powerful, full woman, and so you should be. Now, how attractive persuasion works is, again, I wish I could give you absolutely everything tonight, but I can't. We don't have all night. And what I give in all of this, I do over 12 weeks, but I want to give you as much as I can. So I'm going to go straight to the jugular and tell you that attractive persuasion is very much about polarities. And so for some of you, this will not be a new concept. For some of you, it might be. But what I'm going to share with you will be profound for everybody, even if you know a lot about polarities, because I can tell you now I knew a lot about polarities, but it wasn't until I discovered the elements of attractive persuasion that I started to find real changes happen in my own love life and in the love life of women who were applying this as well. Finally getting those changes of men actually starting to take charge and give you the things that you want. So something that's really interesting to note is this. Very briefly, what a polarity is, like in magnets, the most popular way to describe it is on a magnet, you've got a positive and a negative pole. And when you bring them closer together, they attract. And when you have two positives, they repel, and two negatives, they also repel. Now, when it comes to relationships, if there's two in the same polarity, they're going to repel. Simple. But do you know what's really interesting is that if one pole changes, then the other one will start to attract, and they will become more embodied in that opposite polarity. What that means is a lot of women say, well, why the hell should I be the one to do all the work and the change? Why can't he get more strong in his masculine polarity? Well, he can. If you're willing to wait around for men to take up the baton when it comes to relationships and make those changes, and go for it. Or you can recognize that you're actually the one in control, because as women, you have a lot more relationship intelligence. And as soon as you start to make those shifts and changes in your own polarity, guess what? They will follow suit because you're the guide. So, and look, let's face it, society has forced you to magnify your masculine. I mean, if you want any chance to make it out in the world and to be recognized and valued, you've had to embody your masculine. So it's not your fault that you're over masculinized. And guess what? It's fun to be masculine as well. It's fun to be in the masculine. I love being really competitive sometimes and getting out there and being directive and making things happen. But the issue is that because women have been over masculinized and it's been necessary to be in the masculine to do anything and have any recognition, women have not been shown how. You have not been shown how to drop that and step into your feminine polarity when it comes to going on a date, or when it comes to coming home to your husband. And what happens is, if you're in that masculine polarity, then guess what? He will do one of two things. He will either stay in his masculine polarity and you guys will be at loggerheads with each other, battle, that's what I call battle sticks, or he will be compelled to kind of be pushed into the feminine polarity. And then you guys will get along, but you're not going to be into him anymore. Who here is just like totally hot under the collar for a really feminine man? No. In fact, that's the biggest problem for most women that I work with, is that the majority of men that they end up connecting with end up being too feminine, even if they start off masculine. And that's because one of the reasons is because as women, we've been so over masculinized, and either they stay in their masculine and you're going to be in battle with each other, or they get kind of switched into their feminine. So as women, it's really important to learn how to create dexterity between your masculine and feminine. And until women are able to do that, until you're able to do it, your relationships with men, your intimate relationships with men will always be disappointing. They just will. You won't have that beautiful, strong, sexy, masculine man to take care of you when you're beautiful, feminine. It's essential. This is a really massive part of what I do in Attractive Persuasion and the Love Codes, where we reprogram. Now, of course, the reprogramming is a really big piece of work. We're not going to do a full reprogramming tonight, but I am going to give you something that you can do straight away. And that is a little practice that I call leaning back. Now, there's someone on the call tonight that I saw come in who when we first started to learn about this, thought it was really funny, and then it became her favorite thing. If we have time, we'll get some women to come and have a chat as well. But this is something that we call leaning back. I want you to think of it like this. When you learn how to lean back in this way, it's kind of like a short circuit way to access your very deep feminine. It surpasses all of the thinking. It surpasses all of the analysis and psychology around it and gets you to embody it. And the best thing is, you're strengthening that feminine polarity and magnet. Guess what happens to the men around you? Whether it be a new man or whether it be a man you've been with for 25 years, he will be compelled into his masculine. He'll lean forward and start to take charge and start to pursue you. It's so sexy and it's so simple. All you need to do is lean back. So, and I mean literally, because our body connects to our circuitry. So as you change your physical stance or your physicality, you will change your psychology. So, and your state. So I want you to kind of do this with me, okay? I know most of you have got your videos turned off, and that's fine, do it with your video off or on. But I want you to do this with me. So let's do the opposite to leaning back first, okay? I want you to sit upright, very rigid. Make yourself as rigid as you can. And I want you to lean forward with your head first. And I want you to imagine having a conversation with someone and how you'd come across and how you'd feel and what kind of energy you're holding within yourself. And I know what kind of energy I'm holding within myself. And I want to bring to your attention while you're in this stance how it's quite a replica of the male anatomy, right? Standing erect and to attention. Now, do this. And imagine the person who's receiving you, like, I'm doing this to you just in a camera. Do you want to come and hold me, or do you want to get the fuck away from me? Right? Now, do this with me. Lean back. And I mean really lean back. Open your arms, even open your knees a little or a lot. Soften your belly. How often we have to suck that belly in to put on the jeans? I never do that. And just really lean back and soften. And dare I say it, and this is why my students always laugh at me, but it's for reals. Imagine your whole body. Try and embody yourself like part of the female genitalia. Take on that shape. Soft, open, relaxed. Okay. Now, this is leaning back. Notice what you feel like, and notice if you were going to speak or talk, or what would happen, what kind of effect it would have on the person who's in front of you. They're compelled to lean in. Now, I'm going to step out of this because if I do this too much more, I might actually just drift off into la la land because it's so lovely. I'm going to find a nice happy medium. You're welcome to stay there and receive. But what we have seen now through modern science and psychology, especially through neuro-linguistic programming, is that changing our physicality does genuinely change the state. And when you change your state, the quantum physics of changing your own state is that it will change the way that the people around you relate to you. And I've seen it happen again and again. Whenever I'm running a group of women through the Love Codes program, I get them to go out and practice this, and the funniest things happen. I've had stories of women who literally, like, they'll lean back and the men will step forward and then they lean back, and they've had men one step at a time without knowing it, like following them around the room, because it's just this leaning back and it compels them to lean forward. I've had women, I remember this one woman, and I often talk about it, she cracks me up. Her name's Louisa. She was an older woman. She was divorced. She had grown-up children, and she was dating. And she was dating this really sexy guy, and he was a fireman. And they were going out on all these dates, and it was wonderful. She really loved his company, but he would never make a move. He'd ask her out heaps. He'd never make a move, and she was so over it. Anyway, and we just started doing the program, and so I said, well, give it a go. She went out on a date with him, and they went to this bar, and she said she looked for a spot that was going to be the most kind of comfy, cozy, where she could practice leaning back. And she found like a sort of a little couch, those bars that have those little kind of couches, like a two-seater couch, and she went and sat there, and she said she leaned back, and she said within a minute or two he had his hand on her knee, which he'd never done before, and she said within like less than half an hour, something like 15 minutes, he was pashing her, like passionately kissing her, and they did go on to have a relationship. But she was genuinely shocked and happily shocked. I mean, can you imagine what that's like? I'm sure you've been there, when you've been in a relationship with a guy or a non-relationship with a man, and he's just not taking it to the next level, and it's so frustrating. And this woman, my client and many clients that I've worked with has embodied this one process and had a profound outcome. And it really is as simple and as complicated as that. And I say complicated because it takes practice, takes guidance, and it takes some deprogramming around what we've been taught up until now. But I want you to remember that. That's something you can do right away. You can do that tonight. You can, if you've got a man at home, practice leaning back, do it. And then get on Facebook and tell us what happens, because it's kind of funny. Watch how he does this and starts asking more questions and getting more interested in you. Go on a date and do it. I often get the women in my program to go on dates on apps just to practice this stuff and see how it works. Now, the next thing I want to share with you is invisible influence. And this is code 3. Now, you know, when it comes to invisible influence, what a woman really wants, as I mentioned before, is to have a super deep connection with a man. Think about what you really want. You don't just want a boyfriend. You don't just want a husband. You don't just want to have babies. You want to have a deep connection with a man. You want to be with a man who really wants to know you, and he knows how to connect with you. And you want a man who knows, can tell what you want and can give that to you, right? Isn't that what we all want? Now, the problem or the issue around this, though, is that men can't read your mind. You know, I mean, how many times have we heard this? I can't read your mind. Well, of course they can't read our minds, but geez, there's kind of some gray area, right, between reading your mind and completely not getting you at all. And invisible influence really closes that gap. And it's something I spent a lot of time cultivating and working out, because it's where a great deal of my own frustration came from. And that is because, you know, okay, as an empowered woman, you have needs, okay? And so you bloody well should. You've spent a lot of time working out how to accept the fact that you have needs, know that they're important. But where the gap has been is understanding how to get those needs met. So one of the options that you have is to tell him what you need and what to do. The problem with that, there's 2 problems with that. One is he might just not do it. That's not good. But even if he does do it, do you love it? Do you feel like, oh, he's done the thing that I've always wanted. He took me out on a beautiful dinner without me having to cook dinner, or he's asked me on another, or we're going on our second date. You don't feel that way if you've had to tell him to. It doesn't feel like he's chosen it. And you know what? You're actually right. You're not just being a princess. If a man does something because you've told him to do it, he hasn't chosen it for himself. You've told him to do it. It doesn't feel the same. The other problem is, and this is the real problem, is that when you tell a man what to do, you give him 2 options, both of which are really shitty, unfortunately. He can either say no, and when he says no, he saves his sense of masculinity, because the masculine is directive and decisive. So if you tell him what to do, he can say no to you, and in doing that, he saves his masculinity and he saves his sense of direction. And the crappy thing about that is that it drives a wedge between you, because then he's not fulfilling his purpose because he wants to be the hero. He actually wants to give you what you want, but he doesn't want to feel emasculated doing it. And it's also shitty for you because you don't get what you want. So that's a bad option. Now, he could say yes and do it, but the problem with that, as I said before, you feel like, well, he didn't really choose it. But more than that, if he says yes and does it, he starts to feel emasculated. He feels like his choice has been taken away. He's not been given the opportunity to actually choose to do it for you and be your hero, which is what he wants. And a lot of good men will do that because they want to please you. But what ends up happening then, unfortunately, is that he starts to step more and more, or fall more and more into the feminine polarity. And guess what happens to the attraction? It's not there anymore. We're not into men who are in that feminine polarity. The polarity and the attraction's gone. And he doesn't want to be there as much. He's not as excited about being there because he's not fulfilling his unconscious but very real purpose of needing to be the hero, to be your hero. Now, the thing is that the place where this comes from, because if you were in a relationship with a woman, it'd be no problem. You could just tell her, she'd say, oh, that's a great idea, and choose it and do it. But men and women have very different modes of psychology, relationship psychology and relationship communication, very different modes. And you haven't been taught any of this. You might have been told, oh, you do speak a different language and men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and that's all very fun and cute. You might even do, you know, little quizzes that tell you, oh, you speak like this and he speaks like that. But no one's given you the skills to bridge that communication gap. And there is. I promise you, there is very specific, not that difficult ways to bridge that gap, but you need to know what they are, and you need to get over some of the programming, again, we've been bloody well inundated with. Now, the way that invisible influence helps with this is that it gives you those tools. It gives you the tools to communicate and to express your needs in a way that has you being empowered and expressing your needs and valuing them, and having him get to choose it. So he feels like he's making the choice. He feels like he's getting to make a decision, and you get to still be attracted to him for being decisive and being your bloody hero. And that's what we want. And that's what invisible influence is all about, giving you those tools. Now, let me just share my screen with you again. I'm going to share with you one aspect of invisible influence. Again, this is a massive code. Okay, this code in itself takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. But think about, you know, what are the alternatives? Just to never have that kind of communication that gets you what you want, which is both to have your needs met and for him to feel like a hero. So can you see my screen? Did I share my screen with you yet? There we go. Now you can. So there are 4 pillars of communication. This is the part of invisible influence that I will share with you tonight, is the 4 pillars. They're essential. The 4 pillars of communication that make all of the difference, that you haven't been taught, that we're going to at least touch on tonight. Now, the first one is communication psychology. Did you know, and when I say this, you're going to go, oh my God, of course, that men, as I mentioned before, men and women process information differently, especially relational information. Women workshop. They process through workshopping. That means they speak it out. They want to say things and they want to get feedback from someone. They're not necessarily looking for solutions. They're just looking to talk about it, to workshop it. Men process information internally. They still process it, and for a lot of men, they actually process it even more deeply than a lot of women, but it's all done internally. Most of it's done unconsciously. They're not even aware that they're doing it. This causes a lot of distress in relationships with men, and between men and women, because when a woman wants to talk about something and the man's not giving you any kind of answers or any response, women often feel like they're being ignored, and it's not the case. I'm not going to go into this too deeply tonight because there's one aspect that I want to really unpack for you. That's something that we go into deeply in the love codes, but for tonight, I'm going to keep going. We'll come back to one of the pillars. The second one, just briefly again, is our style. There's 2 styles of communication: attractive and directive style of communication. The directive style of communication is the masculine style of communication, where it's about saying, this is what it is, this is how it is, and this is how it needs to be done. Attractive style of communication is about creating the grounds, creating the fertile space for the person with whom you're speaking to feel compelled to take that action. And in the Love Codes program, we go entirely into that attractive style of communication, which is something, guess what, that's innate for women. It's actually really innate, but it's been so drummed out of us that women don't do it. I've never met a woman yet, actually I've met one, who does it naturally. And every woman that does the program and learns this, at first they go, oh, this is weird. Then they try it on and they go, oh my God, it's like so normal. It's the natural way for me to speak. And it has a profound effect. The third aspect is needs versus neediness. How do we ask for what we want without sounding needy? There is a very big distinction in how to do that. Again, I'm not going to go into that today because I really want to get through all of this information for you. But what I am going to talk to you about in more detail is leaving a gap. The 4th pillar of communication in invisible influence. Now, those of you who've done the program with me before, you can all give a big nod and go, yep, leaving a gap. It is the hardest part of the Love Codes program, and I reckon it's in the top 3 most transformational tools of the whole process. Now, leaving a gap is the magic. You know, if there was one kind of magic pill, I would say it might be leaving the gap. Now, what I say is that the gap is the space that women don't leave after expressing how they feel or what they want. So the gap is the space that when we do leave it, after expressing what we feel or what we want and need, gives you everything really that you need and want in that moment. It's within that gap that you will discover if he's the right man for you. It will give you all of the information to be able to discover that. And it's within that gap that you will finally feel completely seen, met, and loved by a man. Without that gap, you never will. And that's a really big statement, and I stand by it because I see it happen time and time and time again. The gap that we don't usually leave after expressing how you feel or what you want, need in your relationship. Let me explain to you how this happens. I'll give you a real example. One of my clients, this is when she first started doing the Love Coach program. She was so gorgeous and she knew what she needed, and she really needed her man to let her cry. So he was one of those men who was uncomfortable with her crying. So she really knew that she needed him to let her cry. And so when we started working together, she told me that she knew that she had a lot of self-awareness, because most women who do my work do, because they need to, because we go super deep. She knew that that's what she needed from her man, and she'd even told him that before, but she still didn't feel met. Even though he would do it sometimes and then not do it sometimes, she just didn't know what was going on. And so I actually got her to sit with me and him together, and I got to observe, and it was beautiful what I saw, because she did say to him, I really need to be able to cry in front of you and be really sad. I need to cry. And I know that that's hard for you to watch sometimes because you care about me and you want to make it better, but I need you to not make it better. And I think the best way that you could probably do that is to just know that I'm going to finish eventually, and maybe you could hold my hand, and maybe you could, just maybe even hug me and hold me. And I'm sitting there going, oh, God's sake, that poor woman and that poor man. She didn't leave a gap at all. Now, when I encouraged her to try again, and I spoke to her on her own and gave her a little bit of coaching, and she then instead went to him and she tried again, and she said, I'm really sad and I just really need to cry. And she said nothing else. Oh, that was the hardest thing this 45-year-old woman had ever had to do. It was excruciating. Why? Because she felt so damn vulnerable, and that's why you fill the gap. Because in that moment, you are putting yourself on the line. In that moment, you're saying how you feel, and you feel open to rejection. What if he says no? What if he doesn't do it the way I need him to, and then I realize he's not the guy I want to be with? That's a big one. For all of the single women here tonight, when you leave a gap, you are opening yourself to see information, high quality information, because you will see if he steps up or not. And if he doesn't step up, then guess what? You have just stopped wasting days, weeks, months, or years of your life, because he is not the kind of man who's going to step up for you. Big win for you. But what happens more often than not, and in all honesty, I would say 98% of the time, when you finally leave a gap for a man and just say the thing and let yourself be in that vulnerable space, he is blown away by the compulsion to step into that gap and be your damn hero. And so it is also in that gap that you have the opportunity to finally be seen and actually feel loved. Now, when she said this to her partner the second time round and said, I'm just really sad and need to cry, he looked at her and there was a beat. There was a longer pause than what she's comfortable with. She wanted to fill it in so bad, but she didn't. She looked at me and I went like this. She didn't fill it in. And he just came and held her. He had nothing else to do, and she just bawled her eyes out. This went on for a good couple of minutes. The transformation that happened in their relationship that day is, you couldn't explain it. And I know them still, and it's years later, and that transformation has continued, and she's continued. She had to keep practicing, and I had to keep reminding her, but she's continued this, and he thanks me for it all the time. So this gap is gold. And I really want you to take this on board tonight and take it away with you, because this is something that you can do right away. Leave the gap. Now, I want to talk with you about Heartbreak No More, because, you know, you can do all of these things. You can leave the gap. You can learn how to embody polarity at your will. And you can learn how to communicate in a way where your needs are expressed and he's compelled to fulfill them for you. And you can even change the overall way that you see relationships to start bringing your resources, your time, and actually putting in the effort that's required to learn how to do them well. But none of this is ever going to matter if you don't recognize and change your unconscious love code programming. Let me say that again, your unconscious love code programming. And every single one of you have unconscious love code programming. The thing is, if you don't change that, you can do all of the work. And I know some of you have done a lot already, and you think, well, why the hell hasn't it changed yet? Because you can do all of that work and it's necessary. But when you have these unconscious programs that are still running, and they're unconscious, which means you're not aware of them, no matter how conscious you are. I'm unconscious of my unconscious programs. But your particular love codes, your love code programming, until that's been recognized and changed, you will always end up in the same sort of heartbreak that you're used to. It might have a slightly different name or a slightly different face, but it's going to have that same flavor of heartache, whether for you it's anxiety, depression, loneliness, frustration, anger. You're always going to end up in that same place if you don't change the programming. And that's what makes the work that I do in the love codes different to a lot of programs around learning how to be in a relationship, because we do the de-armoring, and it's absolutely essential. The thing is, for those of you who don't know, we are programmed, and this is very basic psychology. I mean, it's not basic psychology. I'm making it very basic so we can share it tonight. And some of you already know this, but we are programmed in the first 7 years of your life, or everybody's life, is when the majority of your brain mapping occurs. And if you recognize that it's also the time when you have your first interactions with a member of the opposite sex, archetype for you, be your parent or your guardian, this is when the majority of your programs, your relationship programs, are built within your unconscious mind. What that means is that no matter how much you consciously look for somebody who's amazing and that makes you feel safe and that makes you feel loved, if you have whatever experience you had in your relationship with your parents or your guardians in the first 7 years, you are always going to be unconsciously drawn to experiences that will replicate that for you. That's shit. And it's true though. And it's shit. But you can change it. It does take work. I won't lie to you. We're not going to fix that tonight. We can start the process, and it takes work, but it can change, and it's essential to change. The thing is, you can't do it on your own. Like I said, it's unconscious, and it has to be unconscious, because if all of our patterns of how to be in the world were conscious to us, we wouldn't be able to do anything, because we'd be thinking about them all the time. They'd be in our awareness. They're unconscious. It requires unconscious work and programming. And the way that Heartbreak No More helps with this is because it will elicit what your personal programs are, and then that are holding you in that pattern of not getting what you want, and then help you to change it. Now, this is something that we do when people come and do the Love Codes program with me. The very first part of it is to do the personal profiling, and that's what we do. I just did 2 today for the next program, and it's a profound moment when a woman, especially, I did one today with a woman who's so intelligent, and I mean emotionally intelligent, psychologically intelligent. She helps a lot of women around the world. And when we had that moment of recognizing what her unconscious pattern was in love, she was just blown out of the water. And I was too, to be honest. And it just is the thing that makes all the difference. Now, I want to give you an experience of what it's like to have those unconscious programs and how they're there, even though you may not know that, well, you won't know that they're there. Now, some of you who are here tonight have done this process before, but I do it for myself still again and again. So this is really good for everybody to do. So I encourage you all to do this with me. Now, I'm going to ask you in a moment to close your eyes, and I'm going to talk you through a little process of visualization. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about the list. You know that list that you've written about the guy, like the guy that you want, and you know you haven't gotten it, or you've kind of been swayed off your path for the perfect guy many times, and you've made concessions and you've ended up in these crappy relationships. So you've promised yourself and all your girlfriends that you're going to write down a list, and you're going to write down the 10, 20 things that you must have in a man, and you are going to stick to that damn list. And the next time you go on a date and he's really cute and he's really fun, but he's not, you know, he's missing the things on the list, you know that you're off track, and so you go back to the list. That list, I want to talk about how that list doesn't work. Because if it worked, you wouldn't be here. The list doesn't work. Now, you write the list, but you don't end up getting the list. Or, this is my favorite, it happened to me all the time, you get the list. You get everything that's on the list, and here you are in a relationship and it's feeling great. And then, bam, even though you got everything on the list, you end up feeling exactly the same in this relationship that as you did in the last relationship. This is your unconscious love programs pulling you silently and powerfully, pulling you into a direction where you will experience the same thing again and again. So I want you to do this with me now, if you will. Have this experience with me. We'll do it really quickly. We're not going to go into the full process, but we'll just do a little one. So in a moment, well, let's do it now. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes, and I'm just going to talk you through a visualization. So nothing weird's going to happen. We save that for the full program. Closing your eyes. Everyone close your eyes. And I invite you to relax. You're safe right now. Take a deep breath and let out a sigh. Let your body soften. In a moment, I'm going to invite you to visualize your ideal relationship. What I want you to know is that when you're in this slightly relaxed and altered state, you will have a little voice that calls out these, what I call poison blurts. These are negative beliefs. Sometimes they're outrageous and kind of scary. We don't even want to admit that they're there. Sometimes they're silly and kind of sound funny even. What I want to tell you is that those comments have more power than you could possibly imagine. I want you to pay attention to them and notice what they are. So now I'm going to invite you to visualize your ideal relationship. I want you to imagine it. Now, you don't need to see who the guy is. In fact, sometimes it's even more profound to do with an archetypal process where you don't see his face. If the face pops in, so be it. And I want you to see yourself with this man. And I want you to turn the dial up to over the top as far as it being your dream relationship goes. What are you doing together? Where are you? Are you making love? Are you walking through the forest and the bush? Are you building a home together? What things are you doing? How do you look together? How does he speak to you? Go to town. Remember, you're here tonight because you want to finally have a happy, healthy relationship that's deeply connected. This is one of the tools to do that. So give yourself the chance. Take it to the next level and listen to that poison blurt when it comes up. If you have a pen and paper handy, you can write it down. Otherwise, make a mental note, let it go, and come back to the visualization. What are you doing now? Is he introducing you to his friends and to his family? Are you planning your life together? And listen to those poison blurts. What is it saying? Is it telling you, you're too old, you're too ugly, you're too controlling, men find you intimidating, whatever it is. Note it, write it down if you can, then let it go and come back to the visualization and really let yourself sink into it. What are you doing now? How does he treat you like a queen? Are you having children together? Are you building an empire together? Are you walking side by side and taking on the world? Really go to town and listen to those blurts as well. Don't give them energy, notice them, write them down, let them go. What's it telling you? There's no good men left out there. It's too late for you. All the good ones are taken. Men aren't interested in you. Men only want you for sex. And then go back down, back to your visualization. Just notice what's happening now. What's your dream? Are you traveling together? Maybe it's in 5 or 6 years when we're allowed to again. Are you jet setting around the world? Does he make you laugh? Does he listen to you intently and understand your deepest dreams and visions? Notice what that feels like and then listen to that shitty little voice. Write it down. Come back to the visualization. We're just going to do this for another few moments. Give yourself an opportunity. I promise you, the more you put into this, the more you get out. Does he hold you? Do you love the way he kisses you? Does he ask you out? Does he make dates and special excursions, special outings? Enjoy that and notice what that shitty little voice says. And then write it down. And then open your eyes and let it go. Shake it off. Ugh. Really let it go. Come back into the room here with me. Let's think about, can you imagine what it's like for a pink cockatoo to sing the national anthem? Australians all let us rejoice. Yeah, think about that for a second. That's one of my little tricks to get us back in a different state, because that's a shitty state to be in, that old one. But what I want you to notice is that is a very, very brief, very minor taste of what it is that's actually creating your life. Doesn't matter how much you write the list and say, I want a man that's this, I want a man that's that. I promise you that your unconscious programs that are in there is what you're going to end up with. That's why it doesn't matter how much you write the list, you've got to change those blurts. And in Heartbreak No More, that's something that we do is change those blurts. But you can see how powerful your unconscious mind really is, especially in relationships. Thanks to, the first 7 years of our life. Thankfully, it's only 7 years, and now, it doesn't take 7 years to change it, which is fantastic. Now, I want to talk to you about vulnerability because, it's a hot topic, right? And we all know that vulnerability is essential to being in love and falling in love. We all know that it's essential to being in love. I mean, Brené Brown, God bless her, has brought this to the awareness of, popular our popular culture. But the issue is that we know vulnerability is essential to falling in love, but most people don't know what the mechanism is. Like, what does being vulnerable actually mean? So a lot of women, when they come to me and they start to work with me, they say, what does it mean? What does being vulnerable mean? Does that mean like I have to be sad in front of a partner? And the answer to that is no. The answer to that is that vulnerability is a personal thing. The literal translation for the word vulnerability in its origin means willing to be wounded. And vulnerability for each person, it depends on who you are. So for you, being vulnerable might be being sad. It might be leaving the gap. It might be admitting that you have financial instability, or asking for help might be your vulnerability. It might be not asking for help. It's different for everybody. And so it's in layered vulnerability, you get to learn what your actual vulnerability is so that you can do it. But then the next question, and the more important one that everybody asks, is, okay, how do I be vulnerable? I know I've got to be vulnerable, but how do I be vulnerable? And it's a really, really good question, because if you've been hurt or betrayed, or even worse, as in my own case, abused, then you have some very real reasons to not be vulnerable and to not trust men and to not trust love. Legitimate reasons. Yet, in order to love and be loved powerfully and well, you actually have to be vulnerable still. So how the hell do you do that? And that is, and you need to maintain that vulnerability once you get into a relationship. You need to keep going back there and keep that vulnerability open. So this is what layered vulnerability is all about, and why I have dedicated an entire code in my process to understanding and accessing vulnerability in a way that is healthy and safe at the same time. So most people avoid being vulnerable or just don't know how, because they don't have the skill to do it, but also because they've been hurt, because they've been betrayed in the past. It's too scary to be vulnerable. And people think that you have to just be unsafe. It's just, you just have to take a leap and just, throw caution to the wind. And that's absolutely incorrect. I have developed a way that we can be vulnerable in a way that's safe and in a way that builds trust at the same time. This is profound. Imagine what that would be like for you. The first thing that I want to talk about, though, is how most people approach vulnerability from one of two extremes, both of which are extremely unhealthy. Now, the first extreme is what I call doing the wall. This is where they create this impenetrable wall that nobody can get through to their inner soft core, so that they can't be hurt. And it's great and they stay safe. But guess what? You're never going to feel loved, because in order to feel loved, your center needs to be seen. You can feel loved you can have all of your personality traits and external aspects be loved, but you're never going to feel loved until your true deep center and core is loved. Now, other people who come to me, and often people who've done a lot of self-development, understand that I need to be vulnerable. Here's a man, I really like him. I don't want to screw this up. I'm going to be vulnerable. So they do what I call the flood, and they let down all the layers at once, and they flood the person with all their vulnerability. And inside, that core center where your vulnerability lays is all of your hopes and dreams, desires and fears. That's a lot for one person to take on at one time. I mean, it's taken you, whatever it is, 30, 40, 50, 60 years to understand that. Giving that all to one person at one time is too much, and it can be overwhelming for them, and they can run. But not only that, and I think even worse, is that you have opened yourself up to danger. You haven't cultivated any sense of real trust before doing so. And so both of these ways are not good ways to approach vulnerability. Now, as a woman, you want to be vulnerable with a man and have all parts of you be seen, right? That's what you want. You want a man who's going to see every part of who you are and love and accept every part of who you are. And you also, as a woman, you want to be able to really trust your man, that he's got your back. You want to trust that you can let go of your edges, those hard edges that you've had to build to be out in the world and be safe. You want to be able to let them go with your man and trust that you can just fully let go, and he's going to hold you, and he's going to make choices that have got your best interest at heart, and he's going to take care. And I want that for you too. And I know how profoundly beautiful and transformative it is, because I have that. And I didn't used to have it. And I want that for you too. Now, to really understand layered vulnerability, we first need to kind of understand the model of vulnerability and how it works for each woman. And if you consider, as I said earlier today, a man wants to be a hero. A man is powerfully drawn to access or to penetrate a woman's center. All men want something from women, and it's not sex, although it's been misconstrued as that, even in men's minds, because they have this unconscious, they're unconsciously drawn and compelled to penetrate a woman. There's something they need, but it's not sex. It's actually to penetrate a woman's deep core, because your deep core is profoundly connected to the divine and something much greater than yourself. Now, a man is drawn to that. And I want you to imagine that for yourself, that your core, in your center is your core, and all of your hopes, dreams, wishes, that's your beautiful, profound feminine center. And around you is like these circles, like a whole bunch of concentric circles. And these are your layers of vulnerability. Now, when we walk around in the world, we walk around with all these circles around us. And when you meet somebody, you meet them from your outermost layer. And this is the way that it should be. Now, what most women do is either the wall, that's it, baby, you're not getting anywhere else, or I need to be vulnerable. No one's shown me how. Let's just flood. So in layered vulnerability, what you start to understand, which is profound, is that what we'll do instead, and I really want you to pay attention to this because I promise you as you practice this, it will have immediate effects in your love and relationship life, whether you're single or in a relationship. When you meet with somebody, you hang out, check it out, see how you feel. If and when you're starting to feel safe and comfortable, you take down one layer. What happens is he feels that. He feels a bit closer to you and he feels like he's getting somewhere. You also feel a little more seen and it feels beautiful. But this is your moment of gathering information. Will he step up and come to you? Will you feel held and safe still? If the answer is yes, bingo. Then you take down another layer. And you check it out in the same way. Do I feel more safe? Is he stepping up? And he will almost always step up in this process. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. So if you get an answer is yes, you let down another layer and you go on and on and on. This is a process. This is a beautiful dance where you are deepening your vulnerability and building his trust at the same time. And you're getting real-time feedback as to whether or not he's trustworthy. And what happens if you take down a layer and you feel, oh no, I don't feel more safe. I feel less safe. This is not feeling good. This is the real gem. All you have to do, you don't have to sit him down and say, hey, buddy, I'm not feeling really safe. I need you to do this differently, or this is what's happened. He starts to feel emasculated. He starts to feel like you're telling him what to do. And if he doesn't, you feel like you've had to tell him. So you don't trust that he has the capacity to do it for himself. None of that anymore. Instead, you put up one layer. He feels that, promise you. He doesn't know what it is, but he just feels kind of uncomfortable. He feels like he's getting pushed away from what it is that he wants. He's feeling less close to his outcome. And he will start to frantically search around for what to do. I see it happen all the time. It happens to me with my husband. He's aware of it even, and it still happens. They will look around and they'll try and work out what it is that needs to happen. And that shows you that he's trying, he is stepping up, and he will find what it is that you need. And when you get that, you let down another layer. You have built up a profoundly strong circuitry of trust and vulnerability within that relationship. And he feels like he gets to be the hero and you feel safe. It is a win-win situation. I want you all to promise yourself that you will try this out. I don't care if you're dating, if you're married, and if there's not even any, if you have to do with the damn postman, I don't care. Give it a go. This is the answer for how to build healthy boundaries, be vulnerable, and build trust at the same time. It's a real winner. I love sharing this with people. Now, this is a lot. This is the fifth code. Now, I've given you as much as I can for each code in one night, and I know that there's a bunch there. Hopefully you've taken heaps of notes, and you will get a recording of this as well. I am going to open up to have some questions in a moment as well, because as women and as being in the feminine, it's all about collaboration. So we learn so much when we get to share. So we'll open the floor up in a moment to ask some questions. But what I'm going to let you know, first of all, is that even though I've given you as much as I possibly can to know, of course, there's more. And there's some women who are here tonight that want to know more. And as you know, I am running another Love Codes program really soon. And those of you who want to know more about that, I'm going to take some time to explain that more now. So if this interests you, then stick around. If not, then you don't need to. But I'm going to talk about that now. With your permission, I'm going to give you more and more information. So let me just tell you that, you know, there are women here tonight who are ready for this. There are women here tonight who are questioning and wondering if you're ready for it. So I'm going to share with you what it would be like to dive more deeply into all of the codes that I've shared with you tonight, and to do some more of these processes and actually get those profound changes. So this is for women who genuinely are ready to you're ready to stop being disappointed and to do whatever it takes to make that happen, to stop being disappointed in love. It's for women who are ready to, if you're ready to stop wasting your precious time, because let's face it, none of us have more time. We're all kind of less and less time. So if you're really ready now to do what you have to do to stop wasting your precious time in dead-end dates or in dead-end relationships that just aren't going anywhere, or if you're really, really ready to stop feeling that doubt in relationship or in dating or in yourself. And for people who are ready to stop feeling lonely, now that's not just for women who are dating and you feel lonely because you're on your own, but sometimes I think even more sadly, there's those women who feel lonely in relationships. If you're really ready to stop all of those things, then this is who this is for. Now, in the full Love Codes program, we do get all of the things that we spoke about tonight. We go through all the 5 codes, and everything that we did tonight, we do in the full Love Codes program, but we do more. We get more in each of the codes as well. The whole program itself, it runs over 12 weeks, and we go deep. I do filter the women that come in, because we really only accept women who have done quite a bit of self-development already, because we don't start off in kind of nursery school. We dive in deeply. We start off in the deep end because we go for results. Now, it's based on transpersonal and quantum psychology. My background is in these realms. It's based on neuro-linguistic programming and 25 years of clinical experience and application and research. I've researched into a whole bunch of different cultures and ways that relationships do work and don't work. Now, the way that this program, the Love Codes program, is really different to other programs when it comes to relationships and love, is that this one is genuinely not about how to get a man and how to keep him, because that's just not what we do. And it's not about, putting on a show and acting in a particular way to get attention. It's not about that. What it really is about is it's based on very real psychological models of what it makes women happy in relationship and how to attract that into your life, whether you're single or in a relationship. Now, let's have a little bit of a look at what all of the inclusions are. We've started to look at Code 1, which is the paradigm of the quantum paradigm of relationship. And we get everything that we did tonight, but also, so in the full program, you get to do a complete upgrade on your relationship model. So we change the programming that we have as a collective around from the business of relationships, so that your focus and skill set moves towards deeply connecting and making that the model of relationship. What that means is that you also attract men and behavior from men who are on the same page, because a lot of this is based around quantum psychology. Code 1 also, my favorite thing is that it genuinely stops you from talking about the relationship you want. We talk about it all the time, whether you're married and you talk about, I really want it to be like this, I want him to be like that, I want more of this, or dating, I want a man like this. It stops it being something you talk about, and it jumps into your life and starts to be something instead that you are experiencing. It really is a massive shift. Then we look at attractive persuasion, which is Code 2, and you get what we've spoken about tonight, but also you learn real ways of how to surrender into your feminine, how to switch between the masculine and feminine in a healthy way at will. So there's some neural programming around that we do in the program. You learn how to trust again, because as adult women, your trust has been broken, and you can't just say, oh, I'm just going to trust him. It's not as easy as that. So in Code 2, we learn some very real processes and trauma healing so that you can trust again. And it also gives you the skills to draw a man's masculinity to the fore. So again, it could be a man that you have seen or known for a long time who hasn't really stepped into his masculinity, and through attractive persuasion, some of the things that we process will help men to bring that masculinity to the fore. This is a really fantastic one, especially for women in relationship for a long time and men have lost that polarity. This is something that makes a massive difference. And in Code 3, which is invisible influence, we also learn some of the tried and tested ways to communicate with men through those 4 pillars. We unpack all 4 of the pillars, for learning those real ways to communicate with men so that you can actually express your needs in a way that have them get met, whilst men feel like they're choosing it. This is worth doing the program for in itself. And in fact, I've even considered taking invisible influence out of the program and running an entirely separate program on it, but I'm keeping it in the program for now. It also helps you in invisible influence. You will learn how to embody your desire. This is cool. So that men actually know what you want. Remember that thing about reading your mind? It's not quite reading your mind, but there are some feminine processes that we learn so that when you embody what you want and your desire, men start to actually tune into what it is and start to know. Now, I did say that we've got some women here tonight who've done the program, and whenever I speak about invisible influence, I think about this one particular woman, and I'd love for her to have a chat with you tonight. That's if she's still here. Laura, are you still here? I can't see everybody's image anymore. If you are.
Yes, I am.
There you are, good woman. Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
So nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
And Laura is one of the Love Codes graduates from, I think it was 2 years ago now. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah.
Was it? Oh my God, yeah.
I think it was 2 years ago. And look, I mean, look at her. She's beautiful. And this is the thing, you know, so many of the women that come to me, they're beautiful, they're smart, they're intelligent, just like all of you. And it's like, why isn't it working? And when they dig into it, Laura's like, oh yeah, right, okay. Like we had a chat about it recently. And I love Laura because she's just like everybody else who's here today, and it's worked for her. So I'd love her to share, maybe if you would, a little bit of your story with everyone tonight.
Yeah, sure. Gosh, I can't believe it was 2 years ago.
I know.
Wow, it's been a long time. Okay, so where I was at when I did the Love Codes was I was running a marketing agency. So I had my own business, and I had kind of like 6 staff and 3 business partners, and I've been in corporate my whole, like probably 10 years, my whole business career before having my own agency. And I kind of didn't realize that I was really quite directive and I was quite in my masculine. And yeah, I guess I just needed to get shit done in life, you know? So I was kind of in my masculine a fair bit, and there was so much I wanted to do. I love adventure and I love traveling, and I just, you know, it was way more efficient if I just did it all myself, right? So then I kind of was realizing that the men that I was attracting were probably, even some of them that started in their masculine would end up more in their feminine. And the ones that I really, I guess, wanted to pursue a relationship with, it just wouldn't work. Like we'd end up arguing or whatever it might be.
Laura had, can I just say, Laura was one of those women who, she actually had a lot of men pursuing it, and she would be in relationships and stuff, but she wasn't really that into them. And I know some of you will relate to that. But you were those ones that she really knew that she would just love being with, but that those ones weren't working out.
Yeah. So I actually loved the Love Codes program, and I still use so many of the concepts now. And I think that, I mean, even revisiting them tonight, I was like, whoa, there's heaps there. And I was even like, it's good to have a refresher on it, because there's just, I think it's when you actually start practicing it in your life, in real life examples, that you start to go, oh my gosh, this actually really works. So I'm now actually, after the program, I feel like I'm just so much more in my feminine, and I kind of lead from a more powerful feminine place now rather than being in my masculine. And I even notice with my boyfriend now, when I kind of step into my masculine, like he's super masculine, so it'll end up in this massive fight, and like as soon as I go back into my feminine, he'll lean back, like, oh, how much do I use leaning back? It works so well. And leaving a gap as well. There's just so many practices that I actually use in my day-to-day life. And I did have oh my God, and the poison blurt stuff. I actually thought that my biggest thing was that there's no good guys with a lot of depth. You know, I was like,
I remember. Yep.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
Yeah. And then after kind of doing work on poison blurts with Belle and having affirmation around it, I was attracting all of these really wonderful men with depth, and started dating someone pretty soon after the love codes, and that didn't quite work out. But there's been somebody on the scene for, like, he's amazing. He's a huge amount of depth. And yeah, like I just feel like I probably wouldn't be where I'm at in the relationship without having learned this content, and just really changing a lot of, maybe just coming a bit more home to me, like in my feminine, I think. And I kind of see it sort of through other aspects of my life as well, that I actually really enjoy being in my feminine. It's so fun. Like, you don't have to do as much work. Like Andy, my partner now, he's like, you know, he worked in an oil rig and safety. He's an entrepreneur, and he's in finance now. But I remember being like, he's like, this sucks. I have to do all the safety and you get to do all the fun. And I'm like, yeah, it's actually like a lot more fun to be in your feminine than to have to control and direct everything all the time. And I find that when I do leave a gap and let them step up, like he does every time. So I feel like potentially I wasn't leaving space previously for that to happen. So yeah, I think that, like, I still use all the work, like, constantly in my relationships. So I think it was a really great program to go through. I think it's really worth it. So thanks, Belle. I actually ended up doing some one-on-one coaching with Belle afterwards as well, because I thought it was so great. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing, Laura. It's so
Thank you.
nice seeing you here. And I mean, Laura's story is amazing. She plays it down a little bit, that what she actually created for herself, because in the end, this guy, Andy, was the one. He was always there when we were doing the love codes. He was always there, but she was never going to be able to be in that relationship until she made these shifts, and then she made them, and then bam, and now they're together and they're happy and it's gorgeous. And I love it. I love seeing these stories, and they're my favorite. So thank you for sharing with everyone too. It's nice to hear people.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
And you know, Laura's not the only one. Like, all of the women, I think, all of the women who went through Laura's program, except for one woman, all of them are now in long-term relationships, like with the partner. And that's because they did the bloody work, you know. And the thing is that so many of us, we just expect it to happen. Or it's like, it hasn't been happening. And what do you think? It's just going to happen because I've decided it's going to happen again, but it didn't happen last time. It just takes doing some work. And this is why I've created this map for everybody, because I've tried it with so many women, and it works. It's like, it's laid out for you, and it's kind of a no-brainer. I want to say the one woman who isn't in her long-term relationship is having fun dating, but she also runs a radio show about dating. So that's kind of funny, I think. But yeah, and look, the thing is that it takes the work and you get the outcomes. And was it easy for Laura all the time? Hell no. It was hard at times. It was like pulling teeth sometimes. But, you know, that's what you get in the end, is you get what you get out, what you put in. I
feel like I really notice when I'm in my feminine, it's so attractive. And when I'm in my masculine, like, you can see that it repels men, or they want to be your mate. Yeah.
And that's another thing that happens a lot of the time, is that, you know, when you're in your masculine, men might want to have sex with you and date you, but it doesn't translate into long-term relationships, not with those men. And that's what was happening with Laura, is that she'd, you know, the men that she was really into were masculine men, but they wouldn't go anywhere because there was too much of that same energy. And then as soon as she switched it, bam, Andy stepped up. Thank God. Give Andy my love, will you?
Thank goodness. Yeah. Thanks, Belle.
There's so much, and I know one of Laura's favorite was the gap, or least favorites, but that gave the big transformation. Some of the other things that we do in the program, we keep going through all of the codes and unpacking and reprogramming, and we do the reprogramming. And that's the thing, that's something we can't do in a masterclass one night, is those processes where we reprogram those old kind of what you've been inundated with from childhood and from society. And this is what Heartbreak No More is very much about. You know, code 4 is where, like Laura said, you go to those poison blurts. So we elicit them, we find out what they all are. So not just one or two sort of, but we really go to town on them, and then we transform them once and for all. So what this means, this is not a small thing. This means that you actually change those unconscious programs that have been there from childhood that you don't know about, that will continue to otherwise always draw you to have the same experience that you've had in the past until you change them. And in Code 4, in Heartbreak No More, together in the program, we actually transform what they are. Again, the program is worth doing literally just for that. We, in that code, we heal your past relationship trauma. That's a big deal. Moving on to Code 5, which we spoke about just before, layered vulnerability. It's kind of one of my favorites because it's so elegant. It really is like, I think of it like it's a grown-up code, because it's how grown-up, intelligent women get to be vulnerable and learn how to trust again. Because when you're 15 or 14, we trust. But when you're 25 or 30 or 50 or 60 or 70, we need a way to trust. And layered vulnerability, you learn exactly how to be vulnerable and how to feel safe at the same time while building trust back into your relationships with men. It's invaluable. And this layered vulnerability also installs that unconscious capacity to invite your partner to keep on stepping up and growing with you. Now, as I mentioned before, this program, it's not for everybody. It's for you. And a lot of women ask me, they want to know if the program is for them. It is for you. You can be single or married or somewhere in between. That doesn't matter. But it's for women who really are ready to overcome the things that you need to overcome so that you can feel genuinely loved and feel genuinely desired ongoingly. It's for you if you are really ready to feel safe and to feel certain, to overcome any sense of doubt within yourself or the choices that you're making, to feel certain in your choices. It's for women who are really ready to be in the right relationship. And you might think, well, that's a no-brainer. Everyone's ready for that. No, they're not. Some people will just want to keep on with their stories. But if you're ready to really be in the right relationship, it's not to be taken lightly. And it's really, as I said earlier, it's really for women who are ready to step over that hurdle and stop talking about what you want to have in relationships and actually finally bloody well do it and have it in your actual real life. Now, the way that it works, as I mentioned, we go over 12 weeks and there's a lot of content. There's a lot of training and there's a lot of reprogramming and there's contact time and there's video time and training that you get that you do on your own. There's homework. But as a feminine program, it's light on the homework, but there is some homework. So if you have a look at your screen, you'll see exactly what is included and all of the prices and the value is disclosed. So if you look, you get 6 training and recoding videos. So each of the codes, you will be given a full video that you get to learn in your own time, take notes and watch it over and over and over again as much as you want. Then you have 6 live group calls with me. And this is where we connect, unpack and go really deep in the work. That's 6 live full sessions with me. You get to have a relationship profiling private consultation with me. Now, this in itself is worth almost $1,000 on its own. It's profoundly transformative. What we do in this is you fill in this very specifically created profiling by me that gives me a very deep insight into what your personal love programming is. And I can see exactly what it is and what steps you need to take to overcome it. And then we have a call that goes for an hour together and I lay that out for you. That in itself is worth $1,000. And some women, and I often offer this to women who aren't entirely sure if they're ready, that you can, if you want to, you can pay just the deposit for the program. You can book in that consultation with me, which is normally only for women who do the full program. We can have the consultation. And then if you don't want to do the program, you don't pay anymore, you keep the consultation and that's it. So that's a way for people who aren't 100% sure, but want to have a deep dive into what it would be like. And I will offer that tonight if somebody wants to do that. Mind you, I only have so many spaces to be able to do that. You also get live feedback. Every week you get a live feedback session from me, and where I will profile a person and we all learn from that. And you get, every week you get live content and accountability sessions from me. So there is so much contact that you have with me. You'll get sick of me by the end of it. But what I've discovered is that it's one thing to just send you videos and that's it, which is what a lot of these programs are about, but it's actually the contact with me that makes the difference. And that's why I also give you ongoing, I sometimes kill myself for saying it, but it's where the change happens. I give you ongoing unlimited email support. So most coaches you won't have access to them in a program like this, but you have full access to me. You email me anytime you need to, any questions you have, and I will answer them personally. Now, you also get my 4-hour training, audio training, which itself is a program that I normally sell on its own for $500. Now, and then at the end of it all, we get another one-on-one session, which I don't book with people unless they're doing a program, and that's worth $350 on its own. Now, the value of the program, and you look at all of the inclusions, it comes to nearly $6,000. It's $5,950. But I offered the program for only $2,495. So it's epic value. Nobody offers 12 weeks of training with so much personal contact with the particular coach as this for that price. It just doesn't happen. But I just want to make it possible for everybody to do, and I need to make it possible for me to keep doing as well. So I do as much as I can to give it to you in a way that you can access it. Now, something else I'm going to do for you tonight is, for anyone who's here tonight, if you want to join the program, it's normally $5,945 worth of value. Now, normally I charge $2,495 for it, but tonight I'm going to give you a huge discount, and I'm going to offer it to you for $19.96. That's super cheap for what it is, if you think about all of the inclusions that it has. And if you have, like I said, if you're not 100% sure and you just want to do the profiling, you can do that. And we'll even do payment plans for people who maybe, you can't pay for it all up front, especially because, there's been a lot of challenge with work and stuff through COVID. So you can take up to 6 months to pay for it. And if you do that, I think it's like about $350 or less than $350 a month until it's paid off. I've made it so that it's accessible and possible for absolutely everybody. Now, to take advantage of this, all you need to do is drop it in the chat right now. Let us know that you're interested. Just tell us your name and your phone number, and we will make sure that we contact you. The other thing that you can do that I will offer tonight to all of you, and you can let us know if you want this by putting it in the chat. If you're like, yes, I want to do this, but there's just something that's holding you back and you're not sure what it is, we're going to talk about that now. I'm going to open up 20 questions, but I am going to offer my time to you. If you want to jump on a phone call, you just need to put that in the chat. Paul is there listening to you as well. And we will organize a phone call where I will call you personally and we can have a quick chat. Don't tell everybody I'm doing that because I can't do it for everybody, but I just want you to be able to get the work that you want and that you need to do this. So all of the information is on the screen right now as well. If you want to sign up tonight and save 20%, you just need to use the code. What's the code? TLC Early Bird when you go to the checkout. If you do it now, you will get that code. You can do it while you're listening to me. Just go to belindabailey.com. You can see it there. If you click that link, it will take you straight to the page. Use the discount code TLC Early Bird. It will give you 20% off. You can still access the payment plans at the same time. So if you want to just pay a little less. Now, let me tell you, if you're doing a payment plan, it is going to cost you a little bit more in the long run because the way that payments are done, Stripe charges you a percentage each time you make a payment. I charge you just what they charge me, nothing more. But it makes it a lot more affordable to do it that way. Now, again, now's the time to put in the chat if you want to have a chat with me. or if you want to do the profiling. So you can do that. What we will do is just take a deposit tonight.